Hello and welcome to How Great Thou Art. And with me today is Bill Palmer, who has all this wonderful stuff back here. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be here.
Good. How long have you been doing this?
I started the metalwork, ornamental ironwork, in 1998.
And I know you were in Hadley for a while. You became very famous as the guy on the corner.
The guy on the corner, the guy in Hadley. Yep.
Yeah. And you did a lot of, custom work or your own stuff, or?
A little of both. In between architectural work, custom work, commission work, I played around and made stuff arbitrarily.
And you became known just through word of mouth, and you did some art fairs?
Did some art fairs, word of mouth. That corner in Hadley was actually, as small a town as Hadley is, it's actually quite an intersection, well traveled. The road that goes east to west goes all the way from M15 to M24, so people would cut across there, and then if you know the back roads, the road that runs north and south through Hadley will get you all the way from 69 down to 75 back roads way. So it was actually quite a busy intersection.
Well, and it was a garage too, so you could keep the door open, and people could see, and it was a nice venue for you for a while.
Great venue. I had a forklift. I could take welding tables out in the driveway and work right outside. Yeah.
And you're where now?
Now I'm up in Flint. It's not a public shop I'm in. I'm in more of an industrial area. I have my outdoor gallery, if you will, is actually at my house in Columbiaville. I don't take customers too much to the shop in Flint. It's a little dangerous in there.
A little liability, yeah.
And, heavy metal overhead, yeah.
Okay. Well, and you've progressed to, you did a thing in Fenton called, what's it called?
It was Totem of Recreation.
Yeah, and it's how tall? It looks tall.
It's 20 feet tall. Okay. It's 4 feet in diameter. Okay. The theme was recreation, and the area I was picked, I think, mostly because it was the largest submission and because of its shape. It was a cylinder, and the area the pod that it was setting on was a circle, and it was made for people to walk around. So between the two, I was selected, and that was through Greater Flint Arts Council.
Well, congratulations! That's a big coup.
Thank you. That was a fun project.
Well, and we have part of it here, right?
We have part of it here. If you see that sculpture, the figures that are in it, their faces are cut out, and I pushed copper through where their faces were. They're kind of alien, surreal-looking figures, but the faces that I cut out are actually the leaves that are in that sculpture.
Okay, gotta recycle.
Absolutely recycle. I do go green as much as I can.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. What's your inspiration mostly? I know you have a lot of, nature themes.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a club in Michigan of blacksmiths, and it's kind of like a 4-H club. They all get together a couple times a month at different blacksmith shops, and whoever's hosting the event will do a demonstration. And the first couple of those that I went to, the demonstration was flowers, how to make roses and different things. And I've always kind of, horticulture has always intrigued me. But I don't know horticulture at all. I couldn't name anything other than a rose for you if I had to pick something out of a lineup. But I see elements in different flowers. And so you'll see, none of my flowers really look like a particular flower, but you'll see elements of different flowers within the flower itself.
Well, they're also curvy, it's not like...
Yeah,
I've
never been a fan of the geometric sculpture. So my things tend to be more organic. That just seems to come natural to me.
Well, I've seen pictures of your gates, and they're really wonderful because they're like kind of Art Nouveau with the curlicues and all of that. They're just, is that all hand done or?
All hand done. You'll see there's a lot of heavy metal, and I have it's a 100-year-old power hammer, and it has a head that goes up and down that's 150 pounds. So, you know, most blacksmiths swing a 3-pound hammer, and at best, they can swing it maybe 60 beats a minute.
Wow, that's
Yeah, that's really going to work. This power hammer hits 250 beats a minute, and it's 150 pounds. So, like this piece back here, a lot of my work, you'll see my favorite thing to do is to put texture, and it's a lot of viney tree bark type texture, and to look at it and people ask how I achieve that, I tell them hammer and chisel, which is true. I just use a very big hammer and a very big chisel.
okay, too cool. Do you have any plans in the future for like any more big projects or public projects?
I do. I kind of scout those out in between commission jobs, and right now I'm working on a couple pretty good size residential jobs, handrail. I do a lot of architectural work as well, functional things, and that's really a lot of fun for me too. Is making something that's flowing, it's sculpture, and yet functional. You know, take the wine racks for example. This is actually one of the more abstract things I've done. It was kind of just off the cuff. I like the flow of the ribbony look. I like things that don't look like metal.
Okay.
They flow. You know, this looks like kind of like a ribbon to me.
Yes, it does.
You know, so to be able to take something functional and yet be sculpture is king to me.
Well, I think you've accomplished that, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm program director.
Production supervisor.
Producer, editor.
All right, Mr. Tweedle, are you ready?
I'm an editor at Oxford Community Television.
I am the station manager.
What?
We're rolling. I'm proud to be a producer here at Oxford Community Television.
Action.
What do you do at OCTV?
I do science in the news and auto talk.
Politicians!
I'm sorry, I didn't say the right things.
What do I do? I'm a jack of all trades.
Actually, I almost got to play a dead body. You made more money if you played a dead body.
I love working here.
I graduated from Bell and Howell.
I went to school for it.
Team player here.
Hi, Dolly.
Dave.
And I bring all the shows that you watch together.
In the business for 40 years. Been a production manager, I've been a program manager, I've been a general manager.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wham! Wham! I'm a big part of the Addison Living Show.
OCTV has some of the most imaginative people working here.
You can take a story and turn it into something visual.
I'm constantly an individual who wants to learn things.
I do this because we are your voice.
Oh, I love to do music stuff here with OCTV.
I love enthusiasm. I love people who enjoy their job.
He can do that. Anything about broadcasting, I just really loved it.
We want you.
I am.
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 I am OCTV. I am OCTV.
I am OCTV.
I am OCTV.
I am OCTV. I am OCTV.
I am OCTV.
We can do this.
Hello, we're back with How Great Thou Art, and we're talking to Bill Palmer. And I want to talk a little bit about your hands.
Okay. There you go.
Because first of all, they have to be so strong, you know, to do all of that stuff. But you have such an interesting story about when you were born and, you know, how your mother believed in you. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Absolutely. I've, to say, never been able to keep my hands to myself almost all the way back to conception. What happened was when I was in the womb, a fetus, you know, is normally tucked in like so, and I had my hands out, and the sac, I can't think of the name of the sac that the babies are in, but anyway, it formed around my hands.
Okay.
And it made webbing. And as my hands grew, that webbing doesn't grow. So it's kind of as if you had wire or rubber bands or something on your hands. And when I was born, the initial surgeon that was on staff came in to my mother and told him the best thing to do would be to lob my hands off at the wrist. That those bands would slowly pinch off the circulation and they would all die. My fingers would all die. So my mother's doctor said that he knew of a surgeon that had terrible bedside manner, but he was way ahead of his time. By way of a plastic surgeon. And all that held true. He came in and looked at my hands, and his evaluation, he didn't say anything to my parents. He came in, he looked at my hands, and he said, prep them for surgery. So I believe it was within 2 or 3 days of me being born that he shuffled me into surgery.
Wow. You're like, your hands are like, what, this big?
Yeah. But what he did was he cut all the bands in several different places so that they could expand. Mm-hmm. And you can really see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the little slices that he made in through here, and it allowed him to expand. And the one finger here was really wrapped tight really early on. So very shortly after I was born, it was just a short little nub, and it died, so they had to take it. And it's always been kind of interesting to me that considering the initial physician told my parents to lob them off at the wrist, and his thinking behind that, he told them, was rather than have me have hands and have to get used to not having hands, it would be easier for me to just never have them. And it's probably true, you know, in that if something is just the way it is, you don't know any different. And even as they are, people have asked me, you know, is it things are difficult for you to do? I don't know. This is how what I've always had. Wow. So it's what it is. Wow. And it is also kind of funny to me that with all the heavy equipment, mm-hmm. This forge work, I use, you know, heavy machinery, mm-hmm. and people always seem to think, like with that power hammer, mm-hmm. that I put my hands in it.
Oh, well, of course, that would be,
that would make the most sense,
yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I just can't believe how fate kind of intervened, and your mom, you know, had the faith to, you know, not, you know, take it and accept it, but, you know, the faith to go on and make it so much better. I think it's great. Thank you for doing that. That's a powerful story as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Yeah, I've always found it kind of interesting that I've had two careers. I started out as a horseshoer, which is, you know, very hands-on, labor intensive, and then the ornamental work, swinging a hammer and holding it with the metal with tongs or my hand. You know, so I've had two careers that were completely hands-on
Yeah,
jobs.
especially the horses. They're always such a unknown factor. I had horses, and you know, when the blacksmith would come out, and he'd be like almost underneath them, you know, and the horses are like. I always thought it was like, I need a Valium if I'm going to do this, you know.
Yeah,
Or
it
give
can be
one
exciting.
to the horse, one of the two. You know?
Yeah.
I always thought that was a very dangerous occupation. Well, tell us a little bit about, you know, where you're going to be. Are you going to be showing anywhere? Or, well, first of all, give us your website.
Okay, grab a pencil.
Okay.
It's www.yessy.com/blacksmithartist, all one word.
Yes, that's a handle.
Yes.
Okay. And an email address where they can get hold of you?
And my email address is blacksmithartist@yahoo.com.
Well, that's pretty.
A little easier. Yeah.
Artist, blacksmith.
No, blacksmith artist.
Blacksmith artist at yahoo.com. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When you're, you know, like have younger artists or, you know, younger wannabes, like even 10, 12-year-olds that want to, you know, do what you're doing, what recommendation do you have for them? Do you have any advice?
Well, one of the things I really like about the blacksmith community is that the older generation really strive, their motivation is to keep younger people coming into the trade so that it doesn't get lost. You know, back in the early days, it was totally utilitarian. Blacksmiths didn't do ornamental work. They made the rakes and shovels and forks and knives, whatever. My recommendation to them, it can be a very expensive thing to get into. It is a very tool-intensive sport.
Okay.
If you like to acquire tools, this is the thing for you. You never have enough equipment to make life easier doing this. So I always recommend a piece of railroad track to get started. There's different dies and things that you make.
A railroad track? You mean the
piece of railroad
rail?
track.
The rail?
The rail, yeah.
Wow.
That the train rides on.
Okay.
Because when you start, you're not going to have hammer control. You're gonna nick the face of it. You may see some dies to make different textures and things that you want, that you can carve into the face of it. If you were to buy a new $1,500 anvil, you would think long and hard before you carved into the face of it, and it breaks your heart when you put hammer marks into the face of it. You'll see the...
Yeah, because you can't take it back.
No,
You
no,
know, it's not like clay, you can add more to it. But
Yeah.
we'll get more into that after this break.
Great.
The American Legion. We're a powerful force for the nation. We're patriots through and through. We believe in our flag and all that it stands for. Our Constitution, our Pledge of Allegiance, our way of life are all fundamental to maintaining our freedom and the standing that we have as the greatest country on earth. We promote and defend these values every day in communities across the nation. Go to legion.org to find out more about the American Legion's commitment of service to America.
I'm David Custer, and I'm really excited about our new show, Let's Take a Walk. We are going to hit the streets in your community, and we're going to check in with local businesses and show you what's cool and unique and why you should stop into their stores. We're going to meet great business owners, we're going to eat great food, we're going to do great things. So tune in to our show, Let's Take a Walk, because I promise it'll be a good time.
spelled signs, fill it right.
I've always appreciated the American Legion.
My gratitude to the American Legion.
Thank you all of the American Legion.
Well, we have millions of veterans that are members of our organization.
Thank you.
The American Legion, celebrating a legacy of service to America. Find out more at legion.org.
You better get yourself ready. Is the seatbelt on your couch fastened tight? Do you have a file handy for chewed off fingernails? Make sure you do, and hang on tight, because the fat man cometh. There are other cop shows, others that want your attention, but nothing will command your attention like the amazingly horrendous things you'll see people heartlessly do on Fat TV. The men and women of Fugitive Apprehension TV.
Hello, we're back with How Great Thou Art and Bill Palmer, and you were talking about having lots of equipment and good things to work with. That's one of the things that you really enjoy about it, that you get to have $150 anvils, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of tools.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to go a little bit into the process that you have. Like, do you start at the bottom? Do you start at the side? Or, why don't you give us like like your cattails. Tell us
Okay.
how those are made.
The cattails are what we consider fabricated. It's cut and welded. There's nothing that's heated up and manipulated, what you would call forge work. So there's that, and then the adverse would be the traditional, somewhat traditional forged work, which pretty much means heated up and manipulated.
Okay.
It's always been kind of interesting, fun for me. You get a lot of different feedback at art shows. A lot of people come through, and the welders especially that come through, that will look at something like the cattails, because they're quite simple. It's a fabricated thing. It's cut and pasted, more or less, in metalworking consideration. And a lot of them will say, well, I can make that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been kind of fun for me because a lot of their wives have come through my shop from time to time and said they love them, and they wanted to buy them, but their husbands always say, well, I can make that.
And that never happens, right?
And it never happens, so they come back and they end up buying them. So that's great. But then on the flip side of that, the fun part of that is when one of those welders, iron workers, will look at something like this that's completely forged. There's no fabrication, there's very little or no welding involved. It's heated and beaded, so to speak. And they'll look at the texture on those, for example, and they'll see, the texture and want to know how I did that.
Okay. Do you ever work in like copper or any other metal?
I'm not afraid of much of anything.
Okay.
I have worked with brass, copper, aluminum, stainless steel. I'm not a fan of tin.
And that is because it breaks easier?
It's very thin,
Okay.
Doesn't manipulate well. You can burn through it real easy.
Okay.
I tend to like the larger stuff. It's actually a lot more forgiving.
Have you ever made like armor?
No, I've never really been interested in armor, or a lot of people ask about swords and knives.
Okay.
And I actually have quite a short attention span. Most of my work, the sculpture anyway, is completed in a day or two. I need to see results right away. I need to see it come together. Whereas your knives and things, you you beat for,
well, and
for
they're
days.
smooth and a lot of, it's a different kind of a feel totally from, you know, your flowers. Where do you start? Do you make a base and then you do the stems, or how does it come together for you?
You know, actually it starts with components. I kind of visualize some things I like in the flower there, the pieces of tube that were forged out of pipe. I learned figured out how to make that shape, and then the tapered things are actually angle iron that I cut and fold it around. So what I'll do is I'll make a bunch of components. There'll be a bunch of leaves or roots or textured material or whatever, and I'll just throw it and make a pile.
Okay.
And then once I have those piles and I stare at them for a while, a lot of times I don't actually have a finished product in my head. It kind of designs itself as it goes along, as I go along with it.
Okay. Do you ever do anything besides metal? Like, do you incorporate like other things, even found objects?
On occasion, not too often. If I visualize something that needs a shovel in it, you know, or
Okay.
needs a rake in it, I'll incorporate it.
Okay.
And I do, there is, in the shop I'm in, it's a very, very large sort of industrial shop, and they have huge scrap bins. And I will sometimes go through and paw through the scrap bin. Sometimes I'll get some inspiration seeing different shapes and things that were, you know, discarded.
Okay. Are you represented by any gallery, or do you just, you know, do online things?
Mostly online. My work is word of mouth, mostly. I'm actually still, I think it's been 10 years or so since I've been in Hadley, but people still, I kept the phone number from Hadley.
Okay.
So I'm still in the yellow pages in Hadley as a blacksmith and a welder, I think. And word of mouth. My website does bring some stuff, but as you heard, it's a very, very long website. Most people don't stumble on it. But it will be passed along. When I do the shows, I pass out hundreds of brochures and things like that.
Well, I know in the past, you know, in Calder, you know, did mobiles and things like that. Obviously, your work isn't, you know, like that, but have you ever just done like abstract pieces that hang?
No, I haven't tried to pull that off. It's kind of more technical. And I think that would frustrate me a lot because it would be out of balance, and I have to, you know, that sort of thing.
Well, you're very nature orientated. I mean, you can just see in the shapes and the forms that you do, they're very, very organic, and the organic part, you know, I think just really comes out. And I want to thank you for being here. Do you want to add anything?
No, thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome.
Been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for hauling all this in.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. And I'm Margot Van Horn, and this is How Great Thou Art, and see you next week.